Hello and welcome to the GodisaGeek Retrocast. Once again, I'm your host Lee Garbett, and joining me is my good friend Robin Parker.
Hello.
So, as you can see, we are taking a rather different type of game this week. It's the SNES version of SimCity. As you can probably know from the news around, the next version of SimCity is coming very close to release. So we thought, well, let's play a little played. Well, I say little played. I mean, it's quite popular, but a little known version of SimCity.
Yeah, it's not one of the probably not one of the biggest sellers, but obviously quite strange to find a home on a games console rather than a PC. But it was definitely a good version of it.
It is, and it was. I don't believe it was actually even programmed by Maxis, the original creators of SimCity. I think it was actually created in-house by Nintendo as well, which does explain a few things which you'll probably spot later on.
Yeah, there's a lot of little Nintendo touches and extras thrown in, which we'll see a bit later.
It's actually very, very friendly as well, I think, to the although the controls aren't immediately clear. You have the friendly face of Dr. Wright, which is a very colourful representation of SimCity creator Will Wright.
Yeah, nice little in-joke there. Just even seeing these images reminds me of spending hours and hours of planning these cities and planning the transport networks.
Yeah, I mean, I never really played the other versions of SimCity, but the SNES version took up a considerable amount of my time. I mean, as I was saying to Robin before we started recording, that I think when I got the Wii the day it came out, I think this was one of as soon as this game came out in Virtual Console, I just downloaded it and just didn't stop playing.
Yeah, it's so unusual for a sort of strategy game like this to find a sort of successful home on the SNES, but it works really well. And I mean, with a gamepad, it doesn't really slow things down. I mean, I think because a lot of the work, such as building roads and power lines, is quite intricate, you don't really need the fast movement of the mouse necessarily. It works with a gamepad.
Yeah, I mean, of course, later on the SNES would see its own mouse peripheral, which mainly was used in Mario Paint and not much else. But even without a mouse, it does control really well. The controls are very simple. It's easy to use button shortcuts to get to the menus and go where you need to go. It's all set out rather nicely. And of course, every now and then you can ask Dr. Wright himself for any advice you need.
Yeah, that sort of gives it. I mean, it's a colourful game anyway. I mean, the core design of the game with the industrial, commercial, and residential units with the red, yellow, and blue colours. I mean, it really fits with the Nintendo philosophy of the time of colourful games, and it's then just add the addition of Dr. Wright in there as well. Gives it that extra Nintendo edge to things. But it's a bright, colourful game, and you wouldn't necessarily expect that from a city simulator.
It is, and it's worth noting this was quite an early game for the SNES console. I think this came out, I believe, 1991, although it wasn't released in Europe until 92. But it's an early game, and it does show in that respect. But it's a very odd game to start your console off with.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, with the original SimCity coming out in '89, I suppose maybe they wanted to have a few established titles due for launch on the SNES, because something which they knew would sell. Knew SimCity had been hugely popular, and even in '91 it would have still been a big seller. So they had something there which people could instantly recognise and say, look, SimCity is there, maybe I should try that. I know that's a great, that's done really well before. How have they done it on the SNES? And it's a really good port. It works really well on the game console.
It does. I mean, not many people know, but the game's sequel, SimCity 2000, also made its way to the SNES very late on in that console's life. Probably around 96, 97, I want to say. But it wasn't that great a port. And I think SimCity, the original, is a far better game for this system, and it plays incredibly well.
Yeah, I think probably too many sacrifices had to be made for the SNES version of 2000, because a lot changed between this first game and SimCity 2000, and they had a lot of extra features which probably just would have stretched Nintendo a bit to its limit. especially so late in its life cycle.
Yeah, I mean, it was a game that it had slow down and loading time, so it wasn't the most enjoyable of experiences. Unlike this one, which is very very quick, very it's a very serene game, but you can get around pretty quickly, and it's just enjoyable. It's a nice relaxing game for the most part, anyway.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, you get it's smooth, scrolling smooth. Obviously, the graphics don't need to be fantastic, but it does what it needs to, really. And it's there's nothing there, as you say, in the way of slowdown, anything like that. It's just it just runs. It just works well on the SNES.
It does. So I mean, this mode we're going through now, this is actually the practice mode of the game, which does a very good job of explaining what you need to do. Although it could do a better job of explaining what the buttons do and that, but they're quite easy to figure out. There are other modes in the game, as is a SimCity. You can actually pick a campaign, so you can actually pick a city, and you have certain objectives to get.
Sort of scenario mode.
Yeah, that's the scenario mode that they call it. So there are different ways to play this game. I've gone straight for practice because it's been a good few years since I played, and I was never the best person at SimCity. It has to be said, as you'll probably see.
Well, everyone has their own sort of methods, I think. I mean, I know my techniques were very much sort of the American block systems. Everything used to be really regimented. I spent a long time. If I had to add some extra commercials and make sure I added enough so that everything was still even, I think that's where the OCD began.
Yeah, this is definitely a good test of whether you've got OCD or not.
And then, of course, you get these little extras, which Mr. Wright brings up every now and again.
Yeah, it's good to have that little kind of helping hand that explains everything quite nicely, I find.
Yeah, and he sort of delivers. As you go throughout the game, you get different bonuses for reaching different levels, such as getting 1,000 residents, like 100,000 residents, so on and so forth. And you'll get little bonuses like, as we've seen here, you get to put your house into the city. Then maybe you get to erect a town hall or a statue as you go on. And it's just those nice little touches which sort of help you personalise your city.
I always found the original SimCity to be a more pure experience. I found it's not so much worrying about a lot of the micromanagement part of things. It's just making your city and sorting your taxes out, and then just letting the rest sort itself out, I think.
Yeah, sometimes the later games get a bit too complicated. Sort of games try to do too much and end up just being too much for you to handle.
Definitely. We can see now I'm making a little train line. I have no idea what I'm doing, so I'm just going to draw a little ring around everywhere.
Of course, we just saw the message a minute ago saying your pollution's very high. Yeah, I'd forgotten you constantly get these little reminders, and you've got to make sure you keep your industrial areas far away from your residents, otherwise they complain. And there's all these little things you start to remember that you had to manage, and once you play it for a while, you get so used to it. But jumping back into it as you have, it's all a bit of a shock.
And then, of course, you have to worry about sufficient police stations and fire stations, and making sure everywhere you've got enough greenery around the place.
Although your pesky residents wanting a nice place to sort of sit in. I mean, what are they like? And of course, you could save several different cities in this game. So if you wanted to create your own city and someone else in the family wanted to, you could all save your different cities there and name them. So everyone could have their own game. You didn't have to worry about losing your progress. Ah,
yes. How we love to save game files.
Yes, it's such a revelation after the NES, where everything more or less was cheat codes, or well, not cheat codes, passwords, or just playing the whole game straight from start to finish.
That's right. There's nothing worse than a password you've badly written, and then can't decipher what you've written. Is that an O or a 0?
And there's about 50 different digits you've got to type in.
Just trying to make my town tick along quite nicely. You have to remember to power line everything, otherwise it's just not going to get very far at all. So I'm blissfully ignoring that fact for some reason.
Yeah, as your town gets a bit bigger and more sprawling, I'm sure there were times in the past where I probably just left whole areas without electricity because I've just forgotten about it.
That's right.
And here we are with a pollution warning.
There you go.
You're not doing a good job.
No. I'd make a terrible mayor.
It's all scrolling around very smoothly. It just it was the game. It's like you say, it didn't get too complex. Just everything runs nicely, honestly.
Yeah, everything looks nice and chunky.
Yeah. You don't need a fancy isometric view.
Nah. Just gonna bulldoze some houses because I can.
Bulldoze the train line as a train. Oh,
there we go. That's fine though. It's just gonna find another bit of track to ride on.
We've got the end of year budget that came around really quickly.
Yeah, let's bump
raising
that up.
So yeah, you'd really have to sometimes really plan your cities, or you would have to start bulldozing things and changing everything and chopping and changing to fit all the different transport systems in.
Yeah, I mean, even like I say, there isn't that much to worry about. But when you think about it, there is, and to think that there was a lot more to worry about in later games, it's quite a bit of a plate spinning.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are things you forget about even in this game that you have to do. I mean, such as the tax and the budget. I'd forgotten about that again. Residents
feel the 7% tax rate is fair. Well, I don't think so.
You're going to push that 10%.
I am. I'm that kind of guy.
And of course, something which I think we're going to see soon is we get there's even more you have to deal with other than tax rates and complaining townsfolk.
Yes. It's very relaxing watching this, It's I've spent many a calm evening just relaxing after a day at work, just playing this game.
Yeah, I mean, even the music's quite relaxing as well.
It is.
Brings back a lot of memories hearing these tune going on in the background. And there's not much variety in the music, but it's just sort of gentle background music.
Yes. I believe the music does change depending on how big your town is, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right there, yeah. You're still just relatively small town.
Yeah.
And of course, even the screen changes dependent on the season. You've got a sort of snowy look at the moment.
It's a nice little touch, but it's always welcome.
It's all just for show, just aesthetic, but nice little thing to show the changing of the seasons. There you go. Now it's spring very quickly. You're only in 1901. Doing quite well.
Yeah, buildings looking very advanced.
Yeah, with all those electrical pylons and stuff going on, it's very advanced for 1901. Of course, you're saying that you've got the practice mode here. It's sort of quite unusual for games at the time. It's not like nowadays where you have sort of immense tutorial modes which will show you how to do everything in a game. I mean, back then, you had the manual, and that was it. And if you didn't know how to play the game from the manual, a lot of the time you'd be stuck. So having a practice mode was pretty, quite helpful at the time.
It doesn't hold your hand too much either. It does, it basically does let you get on with it, and just every now and then Dr. Wright pops up and says, "So have you thought about this, or try doing this?" Yeah.
And then, even if you can see on screen right now, you can the game will show you where there's a bit of build-up of traffic congestion, and then it just gives you a little idea of, maybe I need a bit better transport links in that area because it's quite a busy area of town. And it's just little touches like that which you wouldn't know, you wouldn't necessarily notice straight away, but it's sort of helps you judge how your city is doing.
Yeah, lots of little details there that it's very easy to to not pick up on, but once you do, it does help you a great deal in what you're doing. Yeah,
and it's never explained explicitly, but if you sort of watch carefully, you can tell things.
So my town is ticking along quite nicely, although my cash flow isn't looking too great right now, but we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, we're going to need maintenance as well soon. You're running low on cash.
Yep.
Maybe another tax hike soon.
Yeah, that would be the recession kicking in there. Art imitating life and all that.
So you're the George Osborne.
Pretty much. Just tax everybody. Can't go wrong with some more roads until I run out of money.
With only $8 left. I bet you wish you didn't plant all that parkland a few minutes ago.
No. Could have used with more roads and less trees.
Yeah, of course. No one likes greenery. You don't get quite as many of the things you used to get in later entries in the series, like all the different fancy attractions you could put in. But here we get to see, I think you're going to unleash some of the natural disasters on your town.
Yes, you can unleash 6 various disasters to destroy your city. And of course, some of these disasters can randomly affect you playing normally, but luckily they give you the option to test them out. As you can see, that's Bowser, the King of the Koopas. Lovely little Mario reference there.
Obviously a Nintendo exclusive bad guy.
Is.
I mean, natural disaster. And you see him closing in on your town in a very Godzilla-like way.
Yep. Let's just bring the pain onto my town at the moment. Let's just take everything down.
You've got sick of those residents complaining.
Yep.
Gonna bring every possible natural disaster, rain it down on their heads.
Pretty much. There we go, floods.
Dr. Wright's going crazy.
Yep.
Floods. Yeah, I think there was the option in the main game, as you say, they can occur randomly, but I think you could choose to turn them off. I think completely, so you could play with them happening randomly or with nothing happening. But it just helps spice it up a bit and add a bit of action into the game.
Yeah, bit of fun.
Yeah.
So we've got fire running at the moment. So we've got fire, flood, and Bowser.
You got an impending plane crash as well, possibly.
We can only hope.
So then you have to start doing a bit more city management, trying to clear out areas which are on fire, bulldoze the surrounding areas. I don't think there's much you can do to contain Bowser.
No.
He just runs rampant on your city. And the earthquake, of course, will damage some of your town, so you might have to rebuild roads and buildings.
I mean, let's face it, in this situation, there is nothing you can do. Like, there are so many things going on that I think it would take a very skilled player to work their way around this little scenario.
Especially with a whopping budget of $8.
Exactly.
I think you've realised you've got yourself into a hole, and you're just going to bring this town to its knees.
Yeah, and I'm just going to watch Bowser have his way with my town. There we go.
Everything's on.
Everything's all gone wrong.
Bowser just leaves little campfires in his way.
Just the power's out, chaos everywhere.
I don't know if I remember correctly, but I think if you reached a certain amount of citizens, I think it was maybe 1 million citizens, they gave you a Mario statue to erect.
Yep, that's right.
So another little reference to, of course, the enduring character there.
Well, as Bowser walks off into the sunset, happy that he's completely demolished my town, we're going to say goodbye for now. So thank you very much for watching this week. As always, you can check out all of our content at GodisaGeek.com. So that's news, reviews, videos like ourselves, podcasts, and all other good stuff. So until next week, we shall see you then. Goodbye.
So long.